And don't forget to order your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book, Stiff Arming Football Myths, an excellent book that you can find on our website at footballgameplan.com/books, available in both PDF as well as paperback form. For the Giants in this ball game, you want to keep it downhill in the running game. Last week versus Houston, it was the best I've seen from that Giants interior offensive line all season long, and even dating back to last year, they played great football. I would also keep it downhill this week versus the Redskins. And Jason Pierre-Paul versus Trent Williams will be the biggest matchup that they're going to have to win defensively. Pierre-Paul can't allow himself to get reached in a running game. Otherwise, the Redskins can run all day off tackle, and they have to know where Kerrigan is at all times. In my opinion, he is the best pass rusher on that Redskins defense. They have to make sure they get him blocked. Otherwise, he can wreak havoc in the backfield. And for the Redskins in this game, you want to keep an eye on the alignment of Prince Amukamara, the cornerback. He's a guy that struggles to flip his hips in transition and is susceptible to double moves. So when he's not impressed and playing off, it'll be a great opportunity to hit him with a sluggo and out and up pivot routes, even whip routes, where he has to open those hips, turn, and accelerate. I think that's a big play waiting to happen. And I will go with an automatic scat call when the Giants go with their NASCAR package when they bring 4 defensive ends on the football field. What a scat call does, it gets that back out and release, out and route quickly, and puts him one-on-one or in a situation where he's going to have to make that linebacker miss. And that's a matchup that the Redskins could definitely exploit. I believe their running backs are far superior than the linebackers of the Giants, especially in the passing game. So get those guys out in space quickly when the Giants bring those 4 defensive ends on the field. And these young cornerbacks have to play big. Guys like David Amerson, Bashar Breeland, those guys have to step up because the Giants will come in and try to spread out that defense and try to weaken that secondary, that already weakened secondary, and attack these young guys in cover. So they have to play big if they want to have some success. We saw last week the New York Giants start to have success on offense, more in particular in the passing game. And I think this week versus the Washington Redskins, they can have some success putting those safeties of the Redskins in the bind. I'm going to show you one play they can utilize that could have them have some success, maybe on 2nd and long, 3rd and medium type of situation. So we're going to show you right here a spread formation, and I love how they're using Larry Donald, the tight end. And we're going to put him in motion and motion him in the backfield to hold these linebackers, and also to give a 3-layered concept to put these safeties in the bind. So on the backside, what we're going to have is a simple streak. We're going to try to have this guy run up the field, down the sideline, hopefully trying to pull this safety this way, getting him out of the play, because the bulk of the action will be front side. So we're going to motion him in the backfield as if we're running strong side zone. Right there, Eli Manning reverses out, sets up in the back. Now at the snap of the ball, Donald is here. We're going to bring him through the line of scrimmage and over on the out. And where we're going to have the inside guy, probably Victor Cruz, because we love his speed and love what he can do getting on top of the safety and getting on top of a corner. We're going to stem him up into the post. Again, trying to occupy the safety, trying to put this nickel back in the bind, because we're going to have Ruben Randall on this side running a 10-yard in route. So you see where you have your 3-layered concept. You have your crosser, which would be your second read. The big play potential down the field with Cruz would be your first read, and your third would be your deep in route. Again, 1, 2, 3-layer routes designed to put the backers in the bind, to put these nickel backs in the bind, and to hold those safeties deep down the field. Now, if you have time and a safety is occupied in the backfield because of the play fake, then you have all the freedom you need to go down the sideline to the wide receiver running the streak. So this is one concept that the Giants can utilize to hold those backers and those safeties of the Redskins at bay, putting Donald in motion in the backfield, running him through the line of scrimmage, and also having Victor Cruz run the post across the safety's face and running the deep in route with Ruben Randall. We know the Giants love to move Victor Cruz around the formation. If you're the Washington Redskins, you can use that to your advantage by forcing Eli Manning to throw into a trap defense. And I'm going to show you how you can dictate where he can go with the football, where he wants to go with the football. And what we have drawn up here is your basic spread set that the Giants love to utilize. And they put Victor Cruz right here in the slot. They love to get him going across the formation. And here's how, if you're the Washington Redskins, you can dictate where Eli Manning goes with the football. It's all about alignment and assignment. Now, what he sees pre-snap is cover 2, but really we're going to rotate into a cover 1 man look. And you see where we have the corners. They're aligned inside shoulders of the wide receivers. Why? Because we want to reroute these guys to go down the sideline. And that's key. Again, down the sideline, so that way you can wall those guys off and make a play on the ball. Now, what we're going to do up in here, we're going to have this inside linebacker. He's going to be a dog blitzer. We're going to show pressure so we can force Eli Manning to get rid of the football quickly. We're going to have the 5 technique come upfield. He's a contained player. We're going to get double A gap pressure. So he's going to walk down. And what we mean by dog blitzer is that if this back stays in and blocks, he's a free blitzer. He can come in and get pressure on the quarterback. Now, if he releases, it's his job to cover him. So let's say this back stays in and blocks. Free blitzer coming in down the A gap. We're going to send a nose tackle to the strong side A gap. So again, getting double A gap pressure, trying to force a quick throw by Eli Manning. We're going to drop this 5 tech down in the B gap, because here's the switch. Instead of having this outside linebacker responsible for the tight end, we're going to send him coming off the edge. And that way we're going to have this backer, the inside backer, manned up on him one-on-one. And notice, all we're trying to do is force Eli Manning to see where he can go with the football. He sees inside leverage. He said, okay, I can't go here. He sees outside leverage with the nickel back on Victor Cruz, with the backer coming off the edge. I can go here with the quick slant. But what we're doing, snap of the ball, safety rotates to the middle of the field, and as the cadence starts to wind down, you see the free safety walking down, and his job is to rob this route right here, this quick slant. Again, playing outside technique, trying to force this window throw right here into the waiting arms of the free safety. So you see how by alignment and by assignment you can dictate where the quarterback goes. He sees double A gap pressure, he sees inside leverage, he sees outside leverage by the nickel back, he sees a lane, an alleged lane right here that he can fit that football in, but he doesn't see the drop in safety, and he doesn't see the nickelback playing outside technique, trying to force him inside, basically bracketing Victor Cruz. And that's one way the Washington Redskins can take advantage of the Giants' propensity to move Victor Cruz around the formation with the zone blitz, hopefully trying to force Eli Manning to throw into a trap defense.
Now, here are some in-game adjustments you want to keep an eye on in this ball game. When the Giants take the field, you want to keep an eye on their nickel package, their nickel personnel. What will they do when the Redskins go 3, 4, and sometimes empty sets? Because, again, this is another secondary, just like Washington, that has a lot of injuries. So they may have to bring extra safeties on the field and ask Antrell Rolle to cover some as a cornerback. So, again, keep an eye on their nickel personnel. And I love the way they move Larry Donald, the tight end, around the formation. So keep an eye how he's utilized both in the passing game as well as in the running game. And you always want to keep an eye on the defensive line rotation of the Giants and what personnel they use in certain situations. And I do believe this is a deep unit on this defense. So whether it's at defensive tackle or defensive end, keep an eye on what bodies they bring in to combat the Washington Redskins offense. And for the Redskins, you want to keep an eye on how often they put Kirk Cousins on the move, whether it's bootlegs, waggles, sprint outs. How often they change up that launch pass spot for him could ultimately determine how much success they have in the passing game versus the Giants. And how often will they blitz Eli Manning? Do they trust their secondary enough to man up in coverage, or will they sit back and play coverage and hope that front seven is able to get pressure? So you definitely want to keep an eye on the amount of blitzes they send Manning's way. And the offensive pace, I think they have an advantage up front, being able to run the football east, west, and even downhill. Whether or not they play up-tempo or slow it down and try to shrink the ball game, you want to keep an eye on the pace that they play with in this matchup. The biggest X factor, in my opinion, for the Giants is Antrell Rolle, the safety. Here's a guy that's utilized in a multitude of ways for the Giants. I love the way they keep him on the move in their defense. Sometimes he can play free, strong, or even in the slot as a corner. I think he's going to have to do all of the above versus the Redskins, and also be that alley defender on the outside in the running game. So I think his role in this ball game would be huge for the Giants defense. And for the Redskins, I believe the receiving core will be the biggest X factor in this ballgame. Each one of these guys, in my opinion, can win the individual matchup. And if they go 3 and 4 wide, I think they actually have the advantage over that Giants secondary. So it wouldn't surprise me to see more Ryan Grant this week, more Andre Roberts, as well as Garcon and Jackson. Again, those receivers can win the individual matchups, and I think they could pose a huge problem to that Giants defense. Alex Webster was a tremendous player for the New York Giants from 1955 to 1964. Ironically, he was originally drafted by the Redskins but chose the CFL, where he became an All-Star. But once he returned to the NFL in 1955, he went on to become a 2-time Pro Bowler. 5 years later, he coached the G-Men as well, en route to being named Coach of the Year in 1970. Webster amassed over 4,600 yards rushing and scored 56 touchdowns in his Giant career. Gene Brittle started his career as a fairly decent tight end prospect, averaging 13 yards a catch his first 2 years in Washington, but once he moved to the defensive side of the football, he went on to become a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 3-time first-team All-Pro. Brittle also earned All-Star honors for the Calgary Stampeders in 1964 in the CFL and finished his NFL career recovering 11 fumbles and named NFL Player of the Year in 1955. I like the Giants in this ball game. I like what I saw last week from their interior offensive line, being able to dominate up front versus a very tough Houston Texans defense, but I believe this game will be won on the perimeter on both sides of the ball. Their receiving core going up against a young secondary in Washington, and their defensive ends and their defensive line being able to apply pressure on the outside and getting in the face of Kirk Cousins and causing all kinds of disruption. I think the Giants will win this one on the perimeter versus the Washington Redskins.
What's up, fantasy football fans? I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. For all of your starts, sits, fantasy football notes, news, and tidbits, tune into our podcast, Football Game Plan Starting Lineup, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on our Football Game Plan Radio Network, which is located at blogtalkradio.com/footballgameplan.
And don't forget to check out Football Game Plan's NFL Wraparound live every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time at blogtalkradio.com/footballgameplan, where we give you all of our late-minute and last-minute notes, news, and tidbits and thoughts on each and every game on the NFL schedule. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Giant fan forums and Redskin fan forums for always showing Football Game Plan support.